Friday, I made plans to meet up with a good friend at the Greenwood Cemetery. The Greenwood Cemetery has been my sanctuary during COVID-19, and I wanted to share some of my favorite walks with her. I grabbed a turkey sandwich at the local deli around the corner from the cemetery in an effort to save money, something I'd only do when I was a student or in my 20s or in a pinch before a rehearsal. But the unemployed pandemic me young thinks differently nowadays. So instead of eating the $10 Parmesan-encrusted Brussels sprouts that I pondered eating for lunch at the fancy Italian restaurant where I previously sat drinking coffee in their outdoor cafe as I looked for work, I instead opted for the $5.50 sandwich on a roll with mustard cheese and mayonnaise. I'm not that desperate as to eat a dry sandwich. I drive through the formidable gates of the cemetery looking for an ideal place to sit and eat my sandwich in peace. There is a small pond on the perimeter of the cemetery that I've often passed by that's close to the entrance that seems quaint. The benches are full, but that doesn't stop me from searching for a spot on the grass by the lakeside that isn't full of goose poop. There's a ton of Canadian geese in the cemetery. I've seen them about on my walks, and there are several dozen in the lake at this moment. I finish my sandwich and settle into my thoughts for a spell, thinking about this fortunate moment where I can stare at the geese outside without a mask on, with only 5 or so human beings spread out around the lake lazing around. I watch the goose behavior as one might if one were an animal behaviorist. Lately, I have become more attuned to the wild animals, in part because of my avid watching of Animal Planet shows like The Zoo, The Secret Life of the Zoo, The Aquarium, The Mega Zoo, and more. I should add that I understand zoos are not always highly regarded. In fact, at first, I was not a fan, but I've learned from watching these shows a great deal of modern zoo work involves animal conservation and wildlife propagation. Zoos aren't the same as before. At least that's the message conveyed on the shows I watch, and so instead of doom scrolling or my serial true crime watching, I watch the zoo shows. They give me some semblance of hope for humanity as they are actively working to resolve the havoc humanity has wreaked on the wild animal populations of the planet. I note the geese following one another flying into the lake, the way they sleekly enter the water as a unit, leaving water trails behind them. They face the same direction. They dunk their bodies into the water with their tails up like lilies peeking up out of the water, looking for food simultaneously. I marvel at their intuitive choreographed communication. Sometimes they disappear from sight even, diving to the bottom of the pond to grab whatever lurks down there that is sustenance. Algae, I suppose. I marvel at how they seem to right themselves after they've flipped over completely upside down, their long necks tucked under their wings as they roll to the bottom and unravel themselves as they come up. I am intently watching their journey when I notice a goose in the middle of the flock that appears to be caught in some kind of purgatory cycle of rotation. It rolls over and over again, and at certain points, it stops on its side. I watch it carefully. I don't know. Do I see its beak there? Is it able to breathe? Is its neck stuck on its wing? No, how can that be, I ask myself. It must be stuck on something, though, but I can't figure out what, as it continues the same cycle, pausing and spinning, pausing and spinning. I watch as the birds call out to one another. They are also in confusion. The bird, it continues to spin around as if on wash cycle and repeat, and I am at a loss for what to do. How long do I wait here until it untangles itself? Now all the geese have flown away, but 4 forlorn geese looking out from the bank. I look around for someone else who may also be witnessing this. There's a young man on a bench reading a book. I walk up and interrupt him in his solitude. For a moment, I wonder if I look and sound like a crazy person pointing at the goose in the middle of the pond. In New York City, you can never be sure why someone has started talking to you out of the blue. Usually, they are asking you for money, or they are insane, or perhaps for directions. But that's usually only in Manhattan with the tourists and such. Anyway, I picture myself as he sees me, as a slightly goofy-looking Asian who isn't quite Asian in her pandemic-inspired attire. I try to tell him, this goose has been turning over like this for a minute or more with no escape. He comes over to the edge of the pond and he agrees something is wrong. Can we get in the water? How deep is the pond? I tell him, I have a snow shovel in my trunk. This is a necessary tool when parking in Brooklyn streets. We can use the shovel to scoop out the goose, I exclaim. I look back towards the goose as I run toward my car, which is parked at the edge of the pond. The goose now appears to be not moving. Are we too late? I grab the shovel as I see him test the water depth with a branch. He says it's thigh deep. I meet him with the shovel at the bank, and I ask, do you want to do it or should I? He says he will. I look at my shoes, which are retro suede Clark Legions, and demur. Also, he's a young man, and so I am inspired to allow him this moment. He makes his way into the pond stealthily with the snow shovel as I watch and worry. This goose is not moving. I'm worried we won't get to it in time. The 4 geese on the bank watch our rescue. Is this goose part of their family? Do geese mate for life? Is there a goose husband or wife looking on in despair? For certainly this is how I'm feeling, and I am just a stranger. The snow shovel is bright plastic yellow and wide, and it is perfectly sized for this young goose. I'm only guessing it's young because, well, how long do geese live? He gently scoops the goose into the shovel and rafts its body to the shore. Now what? What to do? I have watched so many zoo shows, but they have not prepared me for this moment. The goose is lying there floppy and inert. I suggest CPR. What else can we do? I press gently on its chest. It's so soft. The most perfect goose breast I have ever felt. The only goose breast I have ever felt. It's true. Goose down is special, I think. We press its chest gently, prodding, and I make a decision to try mouth-to-mouth. We need to get the goose to breathe. It's clear its heart has stopped, and one might question the wiseness of this decision. But to me, her sleek black lacquered bill is exquisite, so perfect in its form, pure and clean, like nature.
Reach to me. Now reach away. Never wanted to envision 100